The triumphant Machiste and Satana prepare their coffins for the criminal syndicate in the jungle hell of an iguana's bumhole.
Well, hello there, and welcome to the Iguana's Butthole. This is the sixth
hole.
Oh, sorry. Yes, bumhole. It's a very different hole than a butthole.
Yeah. You're doing the US edit.
Yes. I think a butthole is where you put out your cigarettes, possibly. But yeah. So
don't try this at home.
This is the show where myself, Nick, and himself,
Clive,
we have been talking about the entire, well, almost the entire. There's a couple of non-extant Umberto Lenzi films that we couldn't get our hands on, but pretty much the entire Umberto Lenzi catalog. 60, what is it we decided in the end? 64 films, over 8 episodes, 8 films per episode. We are weary. Yeah, we are. And
I'm never doing this again.
As I said to Clive off air not that long ago, I do feel like a little boy who's pigged out on all the best chocolates in the box, for me anyway. The chocolates I was excited to eat, and I'm now left with some pretty dodgy, creams and things that that are just going to be a mouthful of paste.
See, I'm slightly different. I'm actually kind of quite relieved we're into this section because I appreciate the diversity a bit more. Although next time might be next time I was surprised there's like half of them are fucking war films, but I because I'm not necessarily as huge a fan of the Police Attaché as you are,
or the Giallos as well.
Yeah, I was quite hard for me to watch like 4 or 5 of them in a row. Oh, fuck, another one, you know. So at least a lot of this stuff is crap, but at least I'm hopping from one type of crap to another type of crap. So,
right.
So for me, it's a little bit. It's less oppressive.
You're in like a turd lake, and you're just jumping from shit pile to shit pile. Yeah. But they're all different.
It's less oppressive. So to illustrate the point, the last time was so Police Attaché heavy that when we got into this batch, I had to watch it out of. I couldn't. I had to leave from Corleone to Brooklyn just because I was so Police Attaché out. What I really wanted was some SCUSI, NORMALE, or PIERINO, or anything really. The jungle. So I'm all right. I'm okay anymore. Yeah, it's come back to bite you. Your smug enjoyment of earlier episodes.
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, I said, I mean, up to this point, we went through the Saturday kind of matinee, Robin Hood and Samson stuff, and that I had less of a tough time than you did with that stuff. Then we got into the couple of spaghetti westerns, which obviously again worked better for me than for you. The war films.
There's only a couple of them, so yes. I get on fine with westerns. I don't mind that.
There was the spy stuff that was, I think, very tough going for you, but less. So a couple of them were rough for me too. But overall, I enjoyed the spy films, I think, more than you did. And then we got into the Giallos, which again, I think overall probably I enjoyed more. And the Polizios were just, I mean, they are to me just such a pleasure.
Anyway, it's a bit early for an overview yet, Nick.
I know. So, but we're into now. I mean, we are into the kind of like. It's worth maybe really mentioning very quickly that this is kind of the period of time when the Italian film industry as a whole, the wheels kind of come off, right? Where television becomes a much bigger thing in Italy, and TV is now ubiquitous from like tip to tip, and people stop going to the cinema. So you see,
Tip to Tip was also the title of the hardcore version of SCUSI, ALLA, NORMALE.
Yes, and so at the you get the situation where basically film producers are desperate to get bums and seats, so things get more violent. You start to see the Lucio Fulci stuff go full on. You get to see, well, we're going to see some of the cannibal stuff here. It's also when the movies there's more sex in movies as well, because at this point, that's not going to be on TV. So what's not on TV that we can exploit to get people to go to the cinema? But the money involved, I think, starts to take a precipitous drop, right? So the films get cheaper, and the level of talent involved. It's that thing where you realize a director is important, but you need a good cinematographer, you need good actors, you need all these other people, and that stuff starts to get ropier and ropier from here on out. And I think you can see that very much by the time we get to the Jungle whatever woman film, it's like, whew, I can see the threadbareness of this in a way that it was harder for me to see just a few years, like in the Polizios. I don't feel like things are that threadbare. Right, but anyway, we'll get into this. So
they couldn't even afford to clothe Sabrina Siani properly.
That's true. Yes. She just had that little strip down the back of her bum. So the first one of these we're going to talk about is it is nice to see George Peppard make a plan and have that plan come together.
Right. How long have you been in on that one then, Nick?
No, that's fresh. That's right off the. But you know what? I have to say, I like this 4 times more than I liked the same film, because it literally is the same film as what the hell? Yeah, Battle Force. Now it's called From Hell to Victory.
Oh, really? I don't know if it's just because I watched it after or something. I felt the opposite. I felt well, exactly like you said. I've seen this before,
just a minute ago. Yep.
Yeah, and with slightly less excitement. I mean, George Peppard, obviously, there's a certain amount of nostalgia because we grew up with the A-Team. But other than that, I mean, George Peppard's one of those slightly strange movie stars, because we kind of forget he was. When he was, even though he's Hannibal to us, that was, I would imagine, for him in his career, that was him. That was the year, right? He was a proper film star once upon a time. And whereas I don't have anything against George Peppard, and I kind of see...
You should. Apparently he's a total dick, which is stuff
Okay.
That will be fun to talk about in a moment when we get to talking about the background of this film.
Okay, that'll be interesting then. But and I can kind of see he's got kind of the look, but I'm never excited like,
as a leading
George
man.
Peppard's in this. Like, I've never really I was on the fence, but George is in it, then do you know what I mean? He's not necessarily a big draw for me.
But I'll tell you, so what it is about this film, although, so this film basically has very much the same overall structure and premise as
so you've got a bunch of friends pre-World War II days, and then war comes, and then we have a kind of bird's eye view, and particularly in this one, there's stuff about Dunkirk and Battle of Britain and the Blitz and stuff like that, and then our various characters go through the motions of war stuff, and then at the end, some of them survive, some of them don't. I mean, that's exactly the same Battle Force.
Right down to Ray Lovelock playing like exactly the same just about character he played in the previous film as the son of a military guy.
Peppard's son now, and he was previously Henry Fonda's son. Yeah,
and he's a little more angry with his dad maybe than he was in the previous film.
Yes.
Which
you've got George Hamilton doing an outrageous French accent.
These are the things that were in the plus column for me.
Oh, okay. Right.
So I think I cared more. I don't know why. I have no idea why. I don't think that this is something that you quantify in any way. I cared more about this set of characters than I did about the previous set. And I can't tell you exactly why, but I was more invested and gave more of a shit in their relationships with each other and in the kind of the vicissitudes of war and the war stuff itself, the war footage itself, although apparently largely stolen from not only his own films, but also from
a couple of Castellari's, right?
Enzo G. Castellari's Eagles Over London and the Inglourious Bastards.
Yes. Which I haven't seen Inglourious Bastards for a long time, and I've never seen Eagles Over London, so difficult for me to pinpoint, but I'm very bad at, to be honest, I'm quite bad at noticing reused footage.
Oh, apparently Leon Klimovsky's 7 into Hell was also rifled.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a real grab bag of like World War II. And if you think about that too, 1969 is no, but like 1969 is when Eagles Over London was made.
Oh, okay, okay.
This is footage that's like 10 years older than the film it's in.
Yeah, well, that's why I thought maybe the film stock wouldn't match or something, and I'd notice. But
sometimes it doesn't. But obviously, you're not.
No, to be honest, I all felt if someone hadn't told me that this, this footage was from elsewhere, I don't think I would have noticed. To be honest with you, I mean, again, of course, I don't care.
Yes, sure.
So there's that.
I mean, you must have seen like that. So there's one thing that's different in this film from the other one. There's a lot more aerial combat stuff in this than in whatever. What the hell was the other
Force.
one? Thank you, Battle Force. So yeah, I have my list of this episode's films. The other things evaporate out of my head.
You've only got room for 8 at a time.
Exactly, at a time.
That's why we decided on the 8, because we calculated how much room is left in Nick's head.
It's partitioned into 8 equal slices to put facts. So yeah, it has a lot more aerial combat because one of the characters is like a British RAF Spitfire guy. I was laughing actually at one point because we get the Dunkirk stuff, and the Dunkirk footage is good. I was like, this is solid. It just seemed a bit more. The war footage seemed more finished to me than in all of the other Umberto Lenzi war films I've seen until now. And anyway, there is a guy like. There's the characters who are wearing the kind of the flight masks, and I was like, oh, is one of these guys going to turn out to be Tom Hardy in a surprise last minute like reveal? But no. But what was a surprise last minute reveal was I wouldn't be surprised
because I think he would have been like 3 years old or something.
Yes. But the model airplanes with the little lights blinking on and off when they're firing was just like, and you could see the wires that they're on. It was all enjoyably chintzy, and yet never really pushed me that far out of the film. I was like, I acknowledged it, but in the way that you acknowledge the model work in like a kaiju film, and you're like, yeah, okay, I can see it's a model, but fuck it. I'm invested and I care about the characters and I'm excited about the action.
But an absolutely 100% real Howard Vernon. I'm always happy. He's one of those faces as well. I don't know, unlike George Peppard, weirdly enough, he is actually one of those people. I don't know why I'm inordinately pleased to see
when he shows up.
Yeah. Oh, Howard Vernon, great. I don't know why, but he is one of those faces for me. Always happy to see Howard.
And then who? Oh yeah, and then also our German
Horst Buchholz, I guess.
Buchholz. Yeah. He plays our kind of there's a similar sort of Stacey Keach played sort of similar character in Battle Force, I believe it's called.
No, it's called The Big Battle.
That's the one.
Right.
And so and as I said, I don't know why I cared more, and I liked all the stuff with it was like in the previous film we had Edwidge Fenech or whatever is her name. She played our French sort of resistance girl, but she kind of gets short shrift, I think, really, to be honest, in all cuts of the film. I don't think her role was that big, because I think we saw the expanded version, not the American cut, which apparently trimmed her stuff down even more.
Okay.
But anyway, I thought Capucine.
Oh yeah.
Why does she only have one name? That's great. Who played Nicole? I thought I was.
It's wartime rationing, isn't it?
Right, she could only afford the one name. Yeah. I thought her scenes were great. I was totally invested in her story of like going from kind of being reticent to full bore, resistance, shooting Nazis in the streets and arranging for their stuff to be blown up.
My parents remembered the signs in the shops. Sorry, we have no cappuccins. So,
Right. Yep.
So anyway, I'm kind of bored of talking to this film.
Yeah.
We talked about it before. So hit us up with fantastic behind the scenes facts, because you have a Lenzi book, which I don't have.
I do. I did buy this between the last episode and this. Probably should have had it the whole time. It would have helped for at least for some of this stuff. So apparently, George Papard, raging alcoholic, for one thing.
I knew that much.
Which would explain maybe his decline into doing TV stuff. Yeah. So not just that though. More concerningly, I guess, when in his cups, tendency to beat his wife quite savagely.
Okay.
And while in France, while shooting some of this, did so badly that the French police basically were, having they were like, well, we're gonna have to arrest the guy, and so the film company had to kind of intervene and get in the middle of all of this, and Lenzi was able to leverage this into like, fucking do your job, like behave for the rest of the making of this film. And apparently, so he did. He was somewhat contrite after nearly going to jail, and I think they took his passport away and stuff, and like it was ugly. But apparently,
was his missus a famous person or not?
I'm not sure actually. That's a good question. You have to Google that yourself, folks. But anyway, ugly scene. He was also a total dick to Ray Lovelock. Ray Lovelock has basically gone on record as saying this was the only really shitty experience he ever had making any of the films he made, was with George Papard, who was outraged that they cast such an old actor to play his son. He can't possibly be my son. Right. He's 29, even though, no, biologically he most certainly could have been George, but George was incensed and acted like a total shit to Ray Lovelock. And then, the little turd on top of the shit cake. I guess then when he got back to the States, he had to
You're such a
apologize.
poet, Nick. You're such a
poet. Yeah. I mean, the words just come. I just pulled them out of the air, shaped them with my mind, lay them before you like a sparkling array of jewels. So yeah, apparently, I guess he gave an interview when in Rome when they first started filming to journalists from Variety magazine, which then got published at some point near the end of the filming or after the filming had wrapped. And I'm guessing again, Papard probably gave that interview drunk, right, and said a lot of shit. Said stuff about, or at least it was quoted as saying stuff like, basically, the usual kind of Americans in making a movie in Italy, like, they don't know what they're fucking doing. I'm having to rewrite all my own dialogue and like show the director how blocking is done and all this stuff. And I guess it ran, and then he himself, Papard, took out a whole like page-long apology thing that ran in the later Variety, saying like, those comments do not represent what I really meant to say, and basically realizing that he'd said more or less that like, I took over and directed the film, which is not really what you want prospective employers and future directors to see you saying, right?
Right.
So yeah, just seems like a huge asshole. So there you go. Good to know, I guess, that your childhood heroes' feet of clay and all that stuff.
Yes.
Although, as we've talked before, that show is terrible. Do not, under any circumstances, attempt to rewatch any of the A-Team. It's awful.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
It's boring, which is the most shocking thing to me.
Yeah.
Anyway,
repetitive and all those other things that 80s TV shows which we grew up and basically damaged our brains. I kind of understand. I kind of understand now. I remember when I was a kid, like watching that A-Team, Knight Rider, blah blah, and just eating it up. Like my favorite was the Fall Guy, which I'm too frightened to go back and watch because I like to think that was actually brilliant. But and I remember, my dad often just muttering under his breath or commenting about, what is this fucking American crap,
brain rot.
And I kind of have sympathy with him now. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of see where he's coming from, right? Where I could have turned the channel and watched something much more edifying and sophisticated homegrown fare, such as Allo or something.
Exactly.
After the Summer Wine, or some crap like that. Anyway.
Okay.
That would have been like Saturday early evening, so it was probably like Grandstand or something on the other channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we're into the last, I think, true Polizio film of. I mean, we're well. I mean, because there's a few more cop films to come, I think. But they're not. I wouldn't think they're not Polizios. They're not set in Italy. They're not about Italian stuff.
Oh no,
so
they're fine. I'm all right with them. They're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're into this is From Corleone to Brooklyn. Should have been titled From Palermo to Brooklyn, because Corleone appears at no point in the film whatsoever. It is a little town in the mountains in Sicily, but it's not in this movie. I'm guessing that was with an eye to the international audience. So do you want to tell us about this quickly, Clive? What goes on in what the Merle's mustache up to in this?
Yeah, so a lot. Sorry, it's just a cicada started make. Wow,
making a lot of noise out there.
Yeah, like one really loud one, and then it stopped all of a sudden, or someone's playing with a lawn sprinkler or something. Except there's no lawns out there, so I'm not going to look. But no, it's just out of nowhere. Anyway,
I'm not hearing it here, so I don't know if our audience at home can hear. But
right,
if they can,
Maurizio Merli, an alarmingly cheerful Maurizio Merli. We mentioned this in one of the other films that he was a little bit too cheerful.
Cynic the Rat in the Fist. He starts to become this happy-go-lucky Merle.
But in this one, he's smiling, and there's even a few bits which were quite funny where he has a little joke with one of his co-workers. Hey, you fucking dick, or whatever,
Yeah.
And then the camera stays a little bit too long on him, going like,
yeah,
like that. There's a few of those moments, which I enjoyed, because you don't actually get to see that. He looks kind of a little bit goofy. But anyway, he's a cop who basically, I mean, because there's a lot of the episodic hijinks, but basically he's tasked. It's a witness protection thing, right? And Biagio Pelligra, right? Plays a basically someone who's who needs to testify against the kind of Don character, I guess, played by singer Mario Merola, who, according to the IMDb trivia, was hosted at the White House by Gerald Ford in 1977.
Yes, yep, I did notice that. We saw
Mario Merola, but I can kind of imagine the kind of things that he sings. I'm guessing, stuff that wouldn't be out of place at the wedding scene in The Godfather, right? That kind of
yes, yeah, very Neapolitan, I think, very specific kind of thing that he was doing. Often, I think, connected to like that whole thing of like Italians who have moved to the New World but are sad, and long for the old world, and that kind of thing. Now, see, the thing is, I don't or didn't like him at all, because I saw him because he did a brace of films where he plays this kind of like, you see a little glimmer of this. They make him more of an asshole in this, which I appreciate now. And in fact, this whole film I didn't like at all the first time I saw this, but that has changed. I came to it in a different mindset this time with different expectations, and enjoyed it a lot more than I did when I saw it 20-something years ago. But yeah, he plays a bit more of a straight up asshole in this, but there's a little bit of him like as the like that bullshit of the mafia who's like got a heart of gold, and who like, he will help the little man, and like, we're just here to help, like that stuff. He did a lot of that stuff, and he did a lot of it for Al Brescia.
Okay.
Brescia, however the fuck you say that guy's name. And I find anything by that director to be very hard going, and particularly his Mario Merola movies were like, I
do like his SF outings.
Okay. Yes, you're right. But yeah, anyway, so I wasn't a big Merola fan before this. Slightly more time for him after watching this. But,
yeah, no, it's interesting you said. So this film is actually it's quite slow going. It's quite the slow burn. So I can see why it wouldn't have been, you know, because you're into your attention deficit disorder, Pulitzer attention films. Which
yes, and this is much more straight ahead in some ways. It's got a lot less of that. Like now we're over here, and
and it's almost quite good, I would say. Like there's moments in it. I mean, there's a certain amount of if it was in the hands of a kind of a less hacky kind of director than Lenzi, let's say, I can imagine it working quite, because there's quite a lot in there, and with a slightly better script, there's quite a lot in there about, like, well, for instance, let's just jump, we won't spoil it exactly, but the ending, I really appreciated the ambiguous the ambiguous manner of the ending, and that speaks for, there's very much a kind of futility here, and no good deed goes unpunished kind of thing. And I thought, it's a shame that this overall isn't a slightly better film, that it's got, you know, that it's not a Maurizio Merli vehicle, that someone's actually made this film like properly as opposed to a bit of a programmer, because it's almost quite a good film about the the
organized crime
between organized crime, the Cosa Nostra, in, you know, in the old country and the new country. Like it's almost that, I think. And I guess definitely in your case, you know, if you were back in the day jonesing for yet another Henry this wouldn't have satisfied you. But if you were coming with a new head on, then
exactly,
you should, But again, it's not great, but it is for me at least, it's actually more interesting than some of those films. Like, it's more interesting for me than Manhunt, for example.
Okay.
Which I know you would have had a lot more fun with Manhunt than this, and I get that this isn't necessarily as.
It's not a cartoon. This is not a cartoon.
Although there is one scene which is deeply satisfying, where some kind of, and this is as close as it gets to episodic, really, is there's a bit where there's regular stories coming along, and then just some young punks come in and try and rip off this restaurant.
Yes.
And they're so obnoxious.
Yes.
The table of the turn is like,
yes.
That was quite satisfying. I quite like that. So that's near to that territory as you get. And oddly enough, it's pulled off quite well, right? Just because they're so snotty and horrible, right?
I did like that. I like that. Because it also it showed in a New York setting what they'd just been showing us in Italy like 2 or 3 movies before, the idea that you could have a crime in progress which is interrupted by a second crime, right? Because that's how crime-ridden, you know, Milan is, but it's apparently, according to Lenzi, and that's also how crime-ridden, which may well be true. In fact,
New York, I think so.
I thought you might have appreciated, as I did, some of the scenes of like Merli and Pelligra, and I think Pelligra is really good in this, because this is one of his few meatier roles, right, as an actor. He's in this, and he in the Tough Ones, or not the Tough Ones, sorry, in A Free Hand for a Tough Cop, he gets a bit more to do in that one, right, because he's the leader of the gang that Million's trash can character enlists to help them. But anyway, in this one, there's a scene where they're driving through 42nd Street, and they're like driving past all the marquees, and I saw the Barbara broadcast jumped out at me, and I was like, was there an awkward moment where they were like, do you want to, you know, we could just go in there and check it out. But I thought, so near the end of the movie, there's quite a quiet moment. That's the thing.
They're like, Edward Spanish never does this.
Yes. There's like a moment, quite like this movie has these little quiet moments every now and again that are interesting. Or, for example, the fact that Merli has a wife and a child in this one that he's kind of estranged from, and he gets a few kind of, you know, slightly schmaltzy, but like effective moments with the daughter that he's kind of estranged from. And
well, again, they'd be better if they were a better actor than Maurizio Merli.
Yes. But Pelligra does this kind of beautiful, weird little moment near the end of the film where he's sitting in the room, and he's like looking at all these old. I think it's when he's they're hiding out in the Italian family who run the restaurant's place, and there's all these photographs of, like, you know, Italian immigrants from like the 1920s and 30s on the wall, and he has this kind of weird moment of connecting with them and not connecting with them, and it's all done like there's no words, but I think it's a really powerful little moment of him kind of, and then I read into it this idea of like the opportunity that the new world offers, you know, and he's grown up because he does vent for a while at Merle as well, which is interesting because nobody ever vents at Merle about how you try fucking growing up in Palermo where the streets are piled high with filth and your only chance for a decent job is like basically to work for the mafia. Like, you know, it's easy for you, Blondie, you know, to like look down your nose at me.
Look down your mustache at me.
Exactly. And Merle kind of is like, he backs off. He's like, fuck, this guy, he's kind of got a point, which is not something you would have seen 2-3 movies ago. Yeah, I thought it was a more complex, more compelling movie.
Yeah,
and I
mean, let's not overstate.
Yeah, it's not
it's
great
almost
cinema.
all those things you just said. It's almost those things, as opposed to actually.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
But and also,
I was surprised
it's also got Van Johnson in it too.
Van Johnson, yeah.
Who, my only background information about this one is that apparently enormously pissed off with Maurizio Merli, because at this point Maurizio Merli was truly obsessed with his hair and would spend hours having it like, and it's kind of looking a bit frizzy and thin in this movie as well. I was like, I can see why maybe he was getting worried, but apparently he'd spend like 2-3 hours holding up everyone to have finishing touches put on his hair, and Van Johnson got truly pissed with this and started shouting at Lenzi, tell that fucking guy he's a cocksucker, basically.
Right.
Yeah. So there we go. There's your background information about.
In New York, he's discovered Afro Sheen. He's like, this will work. This is what I need.
Puts it in his mustache as well.
So that's match.
And this is Merle's last, right? This is Merle's last film for Lenzi, I believe.
Right.
And Merle's career kind of, to be honest, tanks very soon after this anyway, because the Polizio boom dies.
Yeah, and he can't do anything else, right?
No.
Pretty much. Or he's not particularly well suited to anything.
No, he does a few. Yeah, I like how he always occasionally, if there's a Franco Nero ripoff being made, he'll be there. So if it's
hanging around offset.
Yeah, the Chioma ripoff, like Manana or whatever the hell it's called.
Manaja,
when he throws the axes.
Oh no, what's the boomerang one? That's Manaja, isn't it?
No, that's got Lou Castel in it, I think. But anyway,
there's one with a boomerang. Kill, is that the boomerang?
I think that's the one. Yep.
Right.
So yeah. So that's it. We're done. We're done with Polizio, I think.
Thank fuck for that. Right.
Not a terrible way to end, though. I have to say, not the worst way to finish off this boom.
No. It's slightly a sign that it was maturing a little bit, kind of.
Yeah. So no good for me, basically. No good for 20-year-old me at all. What's this shit? Let's
move on to something a bit more substantial.
Ooh.
Coming to a Criterion disc near you soon, no doubt. Excuse
me,
Le Normal.
Disco Boogie Boogie Dance.
Disco Boogie Boogie Dance. Oh, is it? I thought it was Mr. Boogie Boogie Dance. Was it Mr. Boogie Boogie Dance?
Oh, it could be. I thought it was disco, but
that would make more sense. I mean, to be fair, as soon as they started, I was thinking, oh, is this Mad Foxes?
Totally.
It's very much a Jack around the shack or whatever the fuck that scene in Mad Foxes is.
Yeah.
Mr. Boogie Boogie Dance.
So, can you guess what French film was tremendously, surprisingly popular not too long before this thing comes out? And you wouldn't think, you know, all of the genre cycles in Italian cinema.
Yeah.
What's a film you wouldn't immediately jump to the conclusion of?
Well, I'm assuming it's that one, La Cage Fall. Yeah, right.
Yes, yeah. Right. Which, of course, I mean, once I read that, I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But weird
I've never seen. I think I've only. No, I don't think I've seen Wasn't there a remake with Robin Williams as well at some point?
And Nathan Lane. Yes.
Fuck, I don't even know who Nathan Lane is. I don't remember.
He was. Yeah. Anyway. He played the character he played basically the version of Nicole in this, who I don't even know the actor who played.
But even though I have not seen La Cage aux Folles, and I do understand that it's considered a modern classic, it doesn't have, as far as I know, Mr. Boogie Boogie Dance or Disco Boogie Boogie Dance, so it automatically can't be as good.
Yes.
SCUSI Le Normal.
And that's a Franco Michalizzi song, so I need to find out what album that's on, and get a copy of that ASAP.
That's on his, I believe, album, Mr. Boogie Boogie Dance. Franco Michalizzi is Mr. Boogie Boogie Dance. And there's a picture of him on the cover with like, a cutty sack and a cigarette in a holder.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And there is a dude who's kind of channeling a bit of James Brown in this as well, the announcer, who occasionally says stuff in English, which is always weird and jarring in Italian films when it's very much like Japanese films where somebody's like, "Let's go, boys," or some random bit of English suddenly in the middle of.
Franco Michalizzi is like, fuck that Giorgio Moroder. I bring you the real sound of disco.
Disco boogie boogie dance.
Which sounds like something basically from the 50s, doesn't it? And nothing to do with disco, even.
But it's got that weird, deep voiced, like, "My name is Zulu." There's like there's that thing that, like, I don't know who it is. It sounds like Bud Spencer doing song lyrics or something. Anyway, so yes, tell us. Do you want to tell us all about what the fuck is going on? Now, we should also say this film. You can. Well, I watched it kind of two ways. I watched it in a DVD rip that you found us somewhere, which was unsubtitled, and then I also watched it on YouTube, where you can find us on YouTube. And if you do a little trick where you translate, or you hit the little wheel and put it on to auto translate to Italian,
you can,
and then
you can totally not understand what's happening in two unique ways.
Exactly, and then you re-hit that again. And then auto translate to English, you will get a mess of gibberish, which will occasionally kind of give you a sense of maybe
thought
what's
Italian to English. Yeah. I mean, now everyone's frightened that ChatGPT is going to take over the world or something. So apparently, I thought, the technology must be damn good now. This will be just like almost as good as a proper translation. No.
No.
So as far as we can tell, so actually it took me a little while. I didn't realize, and I don't know if this was the intent of the film or not, I didn't realize for a while that Ray Lovelock was actually playing a gay character, right?
Yes, or later in the movie he does claim to be ambidextrous, which I can only assume meant bisexual. But yes, he's involved in a relationship with a drag queen called Nicole. Who is playing very much the flamboyant.
Basically, we don't really know what the plot is properly, but basically, it's Ray Lovelock has a very straight-laced kind of father,
uncle, I think.
Uncle, sorry,
uncle, who is an anti-porn. He's like the Mary Whitehouse of Italy. He's an anti-porn crusader.
Mario Whitehouse.
That's the one.
And and then so the other main character is Anna Marizia Rizzoli.
Yep, she's not hard to look at.
Enjoyed watching her. I particularly found her exciting as a miniskirted nun.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, Clive. So that's. I mean, I honestly thought those
that appealed to your Catholic tastes.
Those were some of the most fun sections of the film, actually, as I felt like Lenzi was most invested in the scenes of a very excitable Italian director directing porn. I mean, basically, it was porn / it was the fumetti,
the
photograph,
fumetti sexy, right? Yeah.
And I love that, because he's doing this whole thing about like the I mean, from what you could glean from it, but like the motivation and so on, and then he's like, oh yeah. And just take a picture of her ass too.
And there's a skeleton with a dildo at some point.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure what that had to do with anything. Anyway, and so basically, and she's his dance partner at the Mr. Boogie Boogie Dance. It seemed like one of those they shoot horses, don't they?
Yes.
Who can dance
till you drop.
Who can boogie boogie dance the longest? And she's got a smoking hot ass to watch in the disco scenes, I have to admit. Quite keen on this Anna Marizia Rizzoli. She's also in Play Motel, so I'm going to have to rewatch that. But I think she was quite the sex symbol in the day. And she kind of goes for him, but finds out he's gay. And so then there's a whole lot of door slamming comedy, and eventually Mario Whitehouse figures out that Lovelock's a puff, but it's okay with him, and everyone's
because he seems to have fallen in love with Nicole, Lovelock's
yes,
drag queen girlfriend.
So this is the thing. This is the thing with something like this. I think is, especially if you're taking context of some of the dodgier scenes in the police attaché films we've seen, and also some of the other comedies, and like, so even though this is a La Cage aux Folles ripoff, and from what I understand, La Cage aux Folles is, you know, a sympathetic portrayal of of a homosexual couple passing. Yeah, right. Yeah,
I think the whole idea is that maybe one of the two has a son and he's getting married or something, and then they have to fake that they're straight in order to
something along those lines. I think I might have seen it actually at some point. Anyway, and then it's very difficult to judge because something like this is so like you said, it's so commercial as well. It's difficult to tell. It's not a good film. I'm pretty confident to say it's not a good film.
Yes,
even if there's amazing subtitles,
very broad.
I don't think I'm going to suddenly, this is a masterpiece, you know.
No.
However, what is more difficult to judge is how genuinely sympathetic it is to the LGBT community, which of course would be the thing then. You know, you wouldn't have put it in those words, right? Or how much it's just a crass commercial ripoff, and they were like, you know, we need to put in some vaguely homophobic jokes to make it more funny, basically, because audiences aren't going to go for this. Our macho Italian audiences aren't going to go for this fully kind of, you know, homosocial thing, right? We need to spice it up. So, it's not. I mean, nothing jumped out at me as outrageously potentially offensive, but at the same time, I didn't feel as if it was, you know, I didn't feel it as if it really understood subject matter at all.
I would agree.
Plus, as well, you throw in Anna Maria Rizzoli. It's like, we need something for the non-gay. Some non-gay to see the film. We need, you know, So it is a full-on just a commercial rip-off, which doesn't necessarily mean that it need to be, you know, in bad taste. And I'm not sure how much it is, but it didn't really. I don't think you could mistake it for a film that was actually made by gay filmmakers.
No.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah. No, I would definitely agree with you.
You do have, sorry, the father, by the way, is Renzo Montagnani. He's the guy who plays Mario Whitehouse.
Yes, we're sadly going to see him again.
Also, Jimmy El Fenomeno is in it. Did you spot him this time? Because he is phenomenal. Really? He's the guy who gets the close-up of going like, quite early on in the film. And as far as I can tell, that's what his entire
gag was.
So he is Jimmy the Phenomenon. He's Jimmy El Fenomeno.
Okay. Is he in Pierino as well? Because he seems like he would fit.
I don't think he was. No.
Weird.
They missed a trick. He was obviously on another film.
Doing that jib.
Yeah. No, he's been quite a lot. You look him up, Jimmy El Fenomeno, and he was all over the Italian film industry in comedies like a rash at this point. So yeah. So scripted by Sacchetti. And what did you make of SCUSI, NORMALE?
Which translates to what? Like,
I'm assuming, excuse me, are you normal?
You're normal. I wondered that. That's what I thought too, but I'm not quite sure. So, it's funny to see Ray Lovelock, who we have seen in, a bunch of things, back to back to back almost. I didn't realize he was in this many Lenzi films for this long. Right, going right back to 1970 or something like that, with the Ornella Muti, whatever it is, A Quiet Place to Kill, or whatever the hell it was called.
Quiet Place to Jailbait.
That's the one, yeah. So yeah, and this I don't know if this is his last. This might be his last Lenzi film, possibly.
Don't know.
I suspect. We'll see. but he, yeah, I did feel the film treated him and Nicole relatively sympathetically, as you said. There was less full on, like, I mean, given what we've seen, as we said.
Yeah, nothing jumped out as, oh, that's mean spirited.
Ugly and mean. Yeah. But yes, but it all seems very, very broad.
I mean, to be honest, Ray Lovelock, I like Ray Lovelock.
I think so too. He's really grown on me.
Screen presence, isn't he?
Yeah.
There's something a little bit of like a better Mark Hamill about him.
Yes, you know what? You're not wrong. Yeah. And I will say this for Renzo, who plays our Mario Whitehouse in this. He's good in that he does this thing. Yeah, it's perfect. You're doing that right now with your head. Because he's a very closed-minded fellow. Because he's clearly a perv who has a job beating up on pervs, right? There's lots of scenes of him, and they're not great comedy by any stretch, but there was something kind of enjoyable, partly because there was usually tits and ass involved. Either he's watching porn films or he's dabbing his forehead while the girls are naked at the photo committee place.
Bits. I watch an entire film about that.
The making of Fumettis?
Yeah.
So would I?
Yeah.
So would I?
If there might be a few actually. Sorry, I just following my thought. Was Ray Lovelock ever in a Star Crash style Star Wars ripoff? Because he would actually be he would have been perfect ripoff of Skywalker.
Too bad, missed opportunity for the Italian film industry there.
Skywalker or something.
Yeah. So anyway, and if for nothing else, I need to track down Disco Boogie Boogie Dance.
Yeah, one other thing that's worth mentioning about this film is it does have a surprisingly dark kind of subplot.
That I know, with the woman
in a river,
drowned and murdered, but then another woman who's a lookalike for her shows up, so obviously it wasn't the one they thought it was. But still, that person's dead. That they showed us earlier.
That's the only bit that veered towards, oh no, hang on, is this going to be comedy at the expense of the gay characters as well? Because he first goes to report it, and as far as we the viewer knows, his boyfriend has killed himself.
Yeah,
and the cops are just making jokes. They're like, yes, as far as I can tell. And I thought, oh no. Now it doesn't play out like that because it's not.
Yes, it's not Nicole.
At first, for a while, I was thinking, oh, this is very insensitive. And I was wondering if they were doing it specifically just because they're gay characters, right? Now, to be fair, it doesn't turn out, but it seems. But still, that aside, it's still a weird. Who does that turn out to be? The dead person? Do we know?
I don't think it's ever come back. It's very strange. I agree. It's a weird blip in the film that's like, what was that all about?
It's not just mentioned. It's like you see the corpse
being dredged out of the,
and like they really
canal.
Concentrate on it. It's like,
it's weird.
Hilarious thigh slapping.
That's Lenzi for you. I mean, we'll get to it when we get to whatever Daughter of the Jungle or whatever. Like how wait, who is this for?
Yes, we will. Well, Pierino as well. Yeah. So,
okay.
Are we done with? SCUSI.
I think we're done.
I do enjoy saying that title, I have to say. I hope I'm using the correct intonation.
I think you probably are. So I think we're now into.
If it's politically correct to ask people this.
Probably not.
SCUSI. Normale.
So I think we're now getting into I wouldn't say tonal whiplash in the film, but tonal whiplash between the films section of our show, where we're going to go from light broad comedy stuff to like holy living shit, and then back to like, ooh, really broad awful comedy to, oh my god, what am I seeing? I'd forgotten this was as hard to watch as it is.
There is actually a word for this phenomenon.
Oh,
it's called the Mr. Boogie Boogie Dance.
Ah, okay. That's
yeah. Mr. Boogie Boogie Dance. Yeah, I agree with you. I need a copy of that too. It's someone put it out
it's
on
an earworm.
Inch,
it's an earworm.
with Jack Around the Shack on the B-side.
Mm. Yeah, let us know if you have a 7-inch of this somewhere.
Is Crippled Dick Hot Wax? Are they still around?
Oh shit, I don't know, but they were doing some great work back in the day.
Great title for a
record company. Yeah.
Anyway,
okay. So we're on to
what we got next here, Nick?
I believe is this. Are we into Eaten Alive territory?
We are into Eaten Alive. Not to be confused with Toby Hooper's
Eaten Alive. Yes. Which is that the case where I was reading? Is Mel Ferrer in both of them?
I thought I read. I haven't seen Death for a long time.
I have a feeling that somebody who's in this is also in the other one. It's one of those weird things where he ended up in both films titled Eaten Alive.
Right.
Anyway, Eaten Alive. Okay, this is yes.
Nick, you've done it wrong. That's not how it's written.
Okay.
It's Eaten Alive.
Okay.
You forgot the exclamation
point. Yes. So we are back into the territory that was staked out by Umberto Lenzi back with Man from Deep River, and this is pretty much we're now in a place where he's pissed off. Lenzi is mad because people keep crediting one Ruggero Deodato as the inventor. Ruggero, whatever. Sorry, Ruggero.
Sensitive to our Italian there.
So yes, people are crediting Deodato.
Scusi, Lea Ruggero?
No, Ruggero. So yeah, anyway, people are crediting him with inventing the cannibal genre, with, Cannibal Holocaust and whatever. What's the other one he made before that?
Well, Cannibal or Jungle Holocaust or
Jungle, right? Yeah.
Very good. Still an overlooked one, I think, because people understandably go straight to Cannibal Holocaust, because as we have discussed before in this program, Cannibal Holocaust is kind of one of those handful of just kind of truly essential films about films, whether it be by accident or design. And I still, it's funny, the more I watch that film, the more I think it's like there's something really special about Cannibal Holocaust. I mentioned this before, to the point where, and I understand why it's not, because it's problematic material
in the extreme.
But really, if you could, it's the kind of film you could teach. It's the film you teach in film courses. I really think there's enough meat on the bone. But obviously that's not especially in today's environment.
Not now.
If someone tried to teach Cannibal Holocaust on a campus, like
they would be cancelled before you could say the word cancelled. So this one. So this is Lenzi coming back to a genre, and I think this, and then he's going to go even further very soon with no. I can make him as trashy as the next Italian. I'm going to reclaim my throne as king of the.
Although to get ahead of it, this is the best one he did.
Yes.
This, I mean, it's not because as we'll get into it, it's a cross between a cannibal and a Guyana film, but but this is him.
Although it's no Three Sergeants in Bengal. Let's be honest.
Excuse me.
Anyway, so we've got what I kind of like about this movie is Robert Kerman, right, or Arbola, who is in all of these somehow, almost, it feels like, virtually, all the most infamous ones anyway. This is his by far his meatiest role. Well, I say that, but I'm thinking of some other roles that may be meatier. But no, but like in terms of this set of films, right?
He didn't know, as opposed to watching.
He's the lead, he's in the whole friggin' film, right? And he's not bad.
No, I agree with you. I was surprised.
A leading man, action hero dude.
Fair play, yeah.
I mean, if people don't know, they may not know. If you're not a fan of the world's either of Italian cannibal films or pornography, that
what are
was
you
also-
doing with your life? Scusi, NORMALE.
Yes. I mean, he's in Debbie Does Dallas, I believe, right? I mean, most
He's
famously.
the only one who does Debbie.
There you go.
He's
So wait,
he's
so
got
it's just
his name
Debbie
like,
Does Arbola then?
yeah, it's his name's like Mr. Hardwick or something. Yeah, no, that's the thing with Debbie Does Dallas. Is Debbie,
his name isn't just Dallas, is it?
Debbie does not do Dallas. That's the thing. Debbie is actually quite chaste and only fucks Arbola at the end.
Okay, there we go. So yeah, so Arbola was a and so this is great. So in his wonderful way, Lenzi claims not to have known that he was like, no, he was just a slightly out of shape guy who, you know, had been in Cannibal Holocaust or whatever else, you know, and so I was like, well, we'll bring him in because, you know, Cannibal fans know who he is, and I had no idea he was a porno star.
You do have to wonder how furious Lenzi was at the other that he swiped his, like if he was that angry, you'd think he'd have gone with someone else, right? So clearly it's a mixture of being annoyed, but also, yeah, like, well, it's good for box office or something. Or...
Oh, yeah. And I think opportunities were drying up pretty quickly, as I said, to do much of anything else other than broad comedy and really, really harsh violence. So
Eaten Alive does open with some great scenes of some people being killed at Niagara Falls.
Love the opening of this film. Yes, Niagara Falls, you know, southern Ontario, Canada, you know, the rushing cascade, the cataract of water. You know, you're there with your camera, you know, getting your shots, and suddenly a dude in a Mo haircut with a blow dart shoot you in the neck. You know,
we've all been there.
Yeah. It's don't go to Niagara Falls.
It's a rite of passage. No, who'd go there? It's just some water falling, isn't it? You can stay home, watch that in the kitchen.
And then we cut to like New York, right, which is great too. And so we have like 42nd Street, which again, it's just funny how many of these films feature shots of 42nd Street. I wonder how many of these kind of were shot back to back to back, or you know,
footage.
Yeah, he just grabbed stuff that he could use then later on. But yeah, we get more kind of sketchy 42nd Street, you know, porno houses and grind houses, where these films will be showing, like in the not too distant future, right? Things like Eaten Alive and Cannibal FEROX. Yeah, and then people are getting blow darted again, which is all. I almost wish that the whole film, in some ways, was just, or at least there was another film that was just this. Like a kind of like a slasher film, but it was just a guy running around blow darting people in New York.
Right.
You know?
So
but it's not.
No,
there's more to the story.
These have been sent to kill dissenters who have escaped from. From
Jonastown, I believe.
Jonastown, that's right. Or what is it called? Purification Village, right? So Ivan Rasimov plays a very Jim Jones alike who set up shop in New Guinea, although it's actually shot in Sri Lanka, as was Mountain of the Cannibal God, which I think this film copies quite a bit, doesn't it? I think
maybe lifts footage directly from.
There's footage from the Cannibal God and Man from Deep River, some animal stuff. And Cannibal as well, I think.
Yes. Yeah. It lifts various. Yeah.
And that bit where Ivan Rasimov danced to Mr. Boogie Boogie Dance is definitely ripped off from SCUSI NORMALE.
Yes. Yeah.
And well, the extended he's edited in dancing to it, or watching some other people dance. That would be quite good. If you wanted to do a animal lovers friendly version of this, every time someone watching some animal cruelty, just replace it with the SCUSI Boogie Boogie Dance. Equally horrifying, I think. So anyway, so Janet Gren is looking, who's from Alabama, and
he sounds like it.
One quite racist line of dialogue at one point, which I was quite surprised at.
Yes, I was like,
I was like, okay, interesting choice. And she's looking for her missing sister. So it turns out she's gone.
Sister has joined the Jonas Town cult.
Jonestown Purification Village in
Quite a harsh Polizio style kind of scene, actually, where she and so Mel Ferrer, how do you say his name anyway?
Mel Ferrer, I would say. Yeah,
Mel Ferrer. Yeah, he plays Professor Carter, who's kind of helping her out because he's an expert on peoples of this region of the world.
Inventor of the Ferrero Rocher.
Oh, ooh, delicious! I thought that was a wartime. I think probably makes sense. He'd be old enough.
Yeah,
it was a wartime.
He was very young when he invented it.
Right. They needed to stretch the chocolate, so they added the hazelnut, and then they, that
was Mel's idea.
Good job, Mel. And for some reason, I always get it mixed up with Mel Wells, who I don't know why in God's name.
Well, I know why. It's because they're both called Mel. I just solved the mystery right there.
Fuck, that's what it is.
Yeah.
But I don't get it mixed up with Mel Gibson.
Hang
on. I don't get it mixed up with Mel Brooks or Mel Gibson. It's not like there's only one spot in my brain for people called Mel. It's
of course, I always think Mel Ferrer was a comedy duo with Griff Rhys-Jones for all those years.
Oh, right, yes. Anyway, so yeah, they show up and they're looking for like information on where the where the sister might have gone, and they are talking to some like hippie woman who's like on the street with her guitar, and then her pimp or something shows up and beats the crap out of her, or a drug dealer, and I was like, oh, this scene is very Polizio mean.
Right.
Anyway, yes.
Yeah, but they figure out. So Janica figures out. So she goes to New Guinea, and while there, she enlists the help of arm wrestling Namvet expat Arbola. Who's
the only one who did Debbie.
Yes,
forget that.
He can always bring that up, no matter if anyone gets in his face. Anyway, and he's like, Did you fuck Debbie? Oh no, you didn't, did you? I did. That's right.
I am Dallas.
Yes. Do you know Bambi Woods? Because I know her very well.
Yes, yeah.
So she enlists help, and then they go to the Purification Village.
He's quite mercenary. He's not doing it to help out her find her sister. He's doing it for the cash.
Although I get the feeling that's a bit of a roguish put on, isn't it?
Well, yeah. He does. And he doesn't want to hump her as well. That is.
Yeah.
That's definitely a part of it.
It's the Alabama accent.
Yes, right.
Yeah. And so basically they go to Jonestown, and there's a whole load of fucked up
Jonestown. That's not
whole lot of fucked up stuff going there, apart from the cruelty to animal footage. Yes.
I did start at a certain point. It's just like because I saw these films many years ago when I was younger, I was just like, I've seen this footage before, so I'm just gonna let my eyes wander off the screen for a moment, just stare into space, and then come back, because I was like, I don't
seeing the sad eyes of a cute little monkey being devoured by a snake.
Particularly harsh. Yeah.
To be honest, he's so soulful looking. It almost has the opposite effect, because I can imagine him suddenly going, I'm sorry, can we cut? Yeah, I think I flubbed my line. I think I was supposed to say, but I said, can you believe me?
Let's hope that was the case.
Right. Yes. Let's live in a world where we pretend horrible things never happen. That'll work out fine. So anyway, yes, Ivan Razimov's. Good to see Ivan Razimov in a meteor role as well.
Yes, he has a lot to do in this.
He's good. He's a good Jim Jones.
He chews the scenery, but not in a way that's like obnoxious, but in a way that works. Like he's a cold psychopath.
There's a scene as well. One of the earlier scenes there's like a funeral pyre scene where someone who's been it's Mimi Lai, right? Mimi Lai's been widowed, so the body of the husband is burnt, and then she has to be fucked on the ashes by
it's basically the same scene as we saw in Man from Deep River, but a little grislier because of the ashes pile, which wasn't in the previous film. Yeah.
But what was interesting to me was, even though I know it wasn't shot there, it was shot in Sri Lanka, when they have this funeral pyre going with like bamboo leaves and I was thinking, oh, this is remarkable, because me and my wife watched exactly this when we were in Papua.
Yes, you did. Yes, I remember you talking about that before.
Which is kind of interesting. And we did meet one of our guides was a man who remembered cannibalism from his youth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he.
But no, I'm pretty sure we learned in Cannibal Ferox in just a few minutes that there was never any such thing.
Who am I to argue with Cannibal Ferox? I once went to see a duo in, what's the name of that? Is it Hopen? There's a venue in Kentish Town. I went to see a gig there, and one of the support acts were called FEROX, and it was a guitarist and a bassist and a video recorder, and they just played like video static and played along with it. And they were quite good. I've never heard of them since. I still don't know what a FEROX is.
Oh, I think it's got something to, I think it's like you know, the Latin binomial names like Felix, whatever, you know, I think apparently it means ferocious. So it's like they've created a binomial name for like the cannibal ferox is like ferocious cannibal.
I see.
As like a scientific denomination.
I see. Anyway, back to Eaten Alive.
Yes, back to Eaten Alive. Yes. No. Back to Eaten Alive.
Alive. Sorry. Yeah. Scusi. Janet Agren gets painted naked, and she has a dildo smeared in snake blood shoved up her snatch. It's great seeing Janet Agren starkers, even though I have seen her naked before. There's something about her. She seems very proper, doesn't she? Like you don't.
She's amazing posture.
Yeah.
Like when she's kneeling down and she's like just ramrod straight and painted gold up to here.
You think she's going to be the one who doesn't get her kicked off, like, and everyone else does. So when she does, it's always kind of, oh, okay, fair play. It's always something a bit surprising. You don't expect her to do that. Right?
And she looks very good painted entirely gold. It's obviously Ivan Rasimov had recently seen Goldfinger and was like,
It's one of the films that made it to New Guinea. Yeah. So I don't know what much is. I mean, it plays out kind of. There's cannibals as well. We should mention, but almost like a. This is the thing. So it is in this cycle, but it's almost a bit of an outlier because, like we said, it is more of a
Guyana, Jonestown exploitation film. Yeah.
Which is what makes it interesting for like when they get to the mass suicide in the end and everything, like, oh, holy shit, okay, they've because there was that Mexican movie, the Renacadona one, and there was that TV movie with Powers Booth playing Jim Jones as well, which I remember kind of.
I don't get that, but I like Powers Booth a lot, so that's
Guyana Tragedy, I think it's called.
Okay.
I remember that being. I mean, you can have yourself a little Guyana exploitation Tripleville, and Jake Teague is in this. So there's another American porn star. It's not just Arbola. Teague turns up in this. And well, see what I like about this is because it's not just you got the cannibal and you got the Jonestown thing. So this is like a bit of a smorgasbord. It's a bit more of a exploitation, which is what I quite like. It doesn't put all its eggs in one basket. Yeah. Ferox does later, like we'll talk about it. So it's quite. I mean, I think I have the mindset of a 42nd Street regular, whereas I'm clearly jaded and not fit for polite society anymore. So I would almost say like this is like as Bill Landis might have said about Eaten Alive, it's like the film like if you just want to chill out and you don't want to see anything too extreme, check out a screening of Eaten Alive, because that's pretty much for all audiences, like it's not too harsh, it's just a good time. And that's how I feel about Eaten Alive. But then I realize when you read other people talking about it, for most people, it's fairly strong exploitation, right?
I would think so.
Yeah, but I
Yeah,
don't
for
think it
sure.
is. To my mind, it's not insanity of Cannibal Holocaust, and it's not like the
No.
boring grossness of Cannibal Ferox, or
Mhm.
it, to me, it plays like as close to like a mainstream thriller as, I suppose animal cruelty aside, but
Mhm.
but do you know what I mean? For me, it works like it's like it works. It's almost like a mainstream because got good production values and everything. It zips along. It's a fun
Right.
watch. A fun watch. It's not. It's one I think.
No, it's never boring. That's for sure.
I think it would be a crossover success, but not everyone nowadays. Maybe not. But
No, but then no, yeah, I see what you mean. I think that it's like because it's got, as you said, it's got a bit of a grab bag of exploitation stuff, and it's all dialed quite high.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, no, you've got you got your
Something
macho
for everyone.
Vietnam vet kind of hero, and you've got your pretty blonde
you got
girl.
Cannibal, you got Animal.
Yeah, you got lots. There's lots. Yeah, there's lots
Jungle
going on.
Adventure.
You've got New York cops. You've got professors. This one is interesting. This one gives us the opposite ending to Cannibal Ferox, where she comes back and they're like, now, when you're explaining about what happened, we'd like you to play down the cannibal angle because, we don't want to upset, international, whatever the fuck, I don't know, and she's like, no, I will tell the truth. The truth must be told about, also, I will say poor Mimi Lai comes to like one of the harsher ends, her and the sister. That stuff is pretty like full on.
Always good to see. Always good to see Mimi though.
Or yeah. She's I'm not quite sure. Quite cute in this one, and still a few years out from arresting people from owning, for owning the films that she's in.
Yeah, you do have to wonder.
Okay. Fascinating.
I'm in that.
But it is on the list, so you're coming with me.
Yeah. I think the third one was on the. I think it was on the third list. I think it was on the supplementary list rather than the
the main.
Yeah. But no, and plus as well, it's worth mentioning. Also, they steal this Cannibal Holocaust music again because it's good music. But it is worth mentioning that this is Lenzi at his best, I think, as a director, like as a craftsman. There's nothing shoddy about this film. It zips along. And to my point as well so I remember the very first time I saw Eaten Alive was a re-release, heavily cut version.
Okay.
Without all the gore and stuff. And it still worked. It still worked as like a fun jungle adventure. I remember enjoying it. And then seeing it again with everything in it was obviously a better experience. But it did work surprisingly well in its butchered. So I think it's Lenzi at the top of his game, really.
Well, in a way, it kind of makes sense, right? Because he's been doing the jungle adventure stuff since the 60s, right? Since quite early in his career, since the Sandokan films, right? And then he's gone through the cannibal stuff, right? So he's got that, but then he's been doing the action, sort of war, Polizio stuff as well. So he's got different chops now. And he's in this thing, he sort of brings them all together.
Yeah.
He's done the Giallo, so he's got Rasimov. It is a bit of a it's almost a best of Umberto Lenzi's career. Yeah. The best bits of the best bits.
Two great tastes that you love together for the first time, right? That kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it probably is. I mean, it's a weird one to say to people if you want to watch just one Umberto Lenzi film, watch Eaten Alive. But maybe it is the one, weirdly. Yeah,
because it's unfairly, in the shadow of Ferox for whatever reason, because some people lose their shit about that film, even though it's fucking boring. Mostly just to get ahead of ourselves, mostly boring rip-off of the far superior Cannibal. But Eaten Alive is something different. It's not, I mean, it is a rip-off, but it's a rip-off of so many things that it almost becomes its own unique blend, right?
So witch's brew, it's a stew of
Right.
chunks of stuff that all, yeah, when you put them together, they taste better somehow. It's
Yeah.
it's the sum is better than its parts almost.
Yeah, agreed. So we both like Eaten Alive then.
Yes. Although I still think there's an entire movie to be made about that guy running around blow darting people.
Well, no one's stopping you, Nick.
That's true.
What would be your fake name, your English, your anglicized Italian name for?
Wait a second. I have to come up with an Italian name first and then come up with a rip-off
Yeah.
English name.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
don't know.
Nick Shazam or something.
Yes, that's not bad. Nick Shazam is pretty good.
So anyway, shall we move on?
Yes.
So one of the first films that we ever discussed when we met.
Cast your mind back, audience.
Before we kissed for the first time.
Some 20 years or so ago. Something like that. I don't know, 15 years ago. Something like that.
Numbers are not your friends.
16 years ago.
Yeah, that's more like it.
I've been a couple of years in Japan, and yeah, Clive and I bumped into each other at a reading by Mark Schilling, author of a book about Yakuza films. We're at a secondhand bookshop called Good Day Books, full of a variety of weird expat buffoons who know nothing about the subject.
One who couldn't even sit in a chair. He literally was falling out of a chair.
Know nothing about the subject. So every now and again I'm asking a question, and every now and again a Welshman sitting a few chairs down is asking a question, and I'm thinking, that fellow seems to know more than anyone else in the room, other than the author here, about what we're talking about. And
then he left, so you were stuck with me.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there was there was weirdly there was a second Welshman who was seated at the back corner wanking.
I've never seen him since.
To a book that he'd found. So anyway, so Clive and I.
He knew his stuff. That guy. He was like, "Oh, tell us more now then about this Ninkyo then, because I was reading about that."
Nice.
Yeah. I wonder what happened to him.
We'll never know.
No.
Hopefully he's out there tonight watching this.
Yes, he may reconnect.
So in any case, we hit the streets shortly afterwards. Started shooting the shit. We started to test each other a little bit on like, well, is it just Japanese genre cinema you're a fan of? I won't talk about where that eventually left us a few days later when we went. Month later, probably
a year later, because
a full calendar year later, when I finally responded.
Yes,
Clive's email. Yes, and
I was properly snubbed.
How much overlap there was in our interests in the world of cinema, but in any case,
no need to talk about that. Carry on, Galnick.
Yes, but we were chatting, and somehow Hugo Stiglitz came up, and I have no idea
not somehow. You are clearly thinking about Hugo Stiglitz when you're not thinking about Thomas Millian. So you brought it up.
I must have, yes.
Yeah.
And I was, and it's that thing. It's that thing. Like it's in. I think I used this bit in the introduction to your book. I did. I'm realizing that now. I don't want to quote myself, so maybe I'll back off from going into the Ernest Hemingway "The Sun Also Rises."
Yes.
Bit.
Yeah.
Yes, that appears at the beginning of that book. But anyway, testing each other out to see if we were simpatico, and Hugo Stiglitz was my thing. And then actually, very quickly, I realized I was way out of my depth, and Clive knows fucking terrifyingly far more than I do about all kinds of cinema.
Well, actually, I believe our first question before we started discussing films, just to get out of the way, I think I turned to you and I said, "Scusi, NORMALE," just just to get that straight.
Well, yeah. And then my response of disco boogie boogie dance.
Yeah, and then I was like, okay.
Disco boogie boogie dance.
We're talking the same language, and I started jacking around the shack, and
and then we knew that we were the kings of the universe,
was born,
and that everyone would admire us. We knew it then.
That's right. Yeah.
Anyway,
back to Nightmare City, aka City of the Walking Dead, an Italian-Spanish Mexican co-production shot in Madrid, largely, I think, from 1980.
Mexico being key to why this film stars one Hugo Stiglitz. He was a part of a package deal. This was not a case of Lenzi being like, you know who I'd love to have star in this film is that patchy, bearded, very, very wooden fellow.
You mentioned this. You mentioned this intro. That's not a patchy beard. That's a full beard. What's wrong with
I think not. I mean, my beard's patchy, and I think it looks about the same as Stiglitz's beard.
I was looking at his beard intently throughout to get to the bottom of this. I'm wondering if you're thinking of his beard in another film.
Oh, maybe.
It seemed like if you think Hugo Stiglitz has a patchy beard in Nightmare City, let us know.
Okay.
Because it seemed like a perfectly normal beard to me.
So yes. So this is basically, well, I mean, Lenzi himself gets very upset, and probably rightly so when this is called.
If you say anything to him.
If you say anything to him at all. Yeah. Yes. Scusi. Hey! Vaffanculo.
Lenzi.
Yeah, if you call this a zombie film, because yes, in Lenzi's correct opinion, this is a more like it's more of a ripoff of the Crazies. If Lenzi was ripping off a George Romero film, this is a ripoff of the Crazies, not a ripoff of
Absolutely.
Dawn.
Because it even says there's a news report at the beginning about some kind of chemical spill, isn't there?
Yeah, it's some sort of radioactive thing or chemicals or whatever. It's you know, so they're not dead. This is why they're sprinting. You know, this is why people joke about like how could they be zombies if this dude's wielding a switchblade or a couple show up in a car to an appointment they'd made the day before, and they're these are not
like the later rage infected things in 28 Days Later, right? And except they have walnuts on their face.
Yes, I've heard it described as the turd zombies or day old guacamole kind of.
And it's very. I mean, you're talking patchy. Some of them have it, some of them don't have it. Some of them it clearly goes or to the neckline. Yes. But again, it's odd actually. It's funny because apart from some striking images here and there isn't much in the way of actual body horror or gore. I mean, there's a few bits that go against that. You're like, oh, that's quite gory.
I had forgotten about the boob being cut off completely.
But in general, it's not that gory a film. It's more of an action adventure piece, really, isn't it? Than it is a gore fest. Yes,
I would agree. Yeah, it is again Lenzi's bringing in the Polizio kind of in fact, if anything, it's like the Violent Naples or the Rome Armed to the Teeth of the horror world, in that it's just set piece after set piece after set piece after set piece, loosely strung together, and it's just balls to the wall action.
Right. Yeah, I don't know about balls to the wall, but it is very much an action adventure piece. Yeah,
it doesn't slow down that often. There's just occasional moments.
I heard this said, but I parts dragged for me. I have to say, I suppose this is a slightly different. So I think for Nick, Nightmare City he's in trash film heaven pretty much, right? Whereas for me, I'm occasionally in trash film heaven. There's like moments, but I have to admit it doesn't sustain that level. I do think favorably of this film, and I've seen it a few times, and I could probably watch it again. But I have to say it's not. It does have its lulls. It's not quite the kind of non-stop, fast-paced trash masterpiece that I think some commentators have said it is. It's like they've overlooked. There's some quite long bits where it's just Stiglitz and Laura Totta talking and nothing much.
Yeah, for sure. Near the end, there's a few, yes.
Yeah.
So it's just there's some particularly shit dialogue.
I do apologize. It does seem to be my role on this podcast.
To just be the general dampener.
Johnny No Mates who comes in and goes, but I can't help it. I that's the way
call him as you see him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But anyway, so basically this thing opens with Hugo Stiglitz, who plays Dean Miller, who is a reporter, showing up in his kind of that Mac coat that reporters always wore in the early 80s.
That's right.
And he
who was the little reporter kid in the Beano? He wore one. Oh, do you remember there was like a, what was his name? He was like a miniature journalist, basically. It was like, and he had a name. I'm blanking on it, but it had a name that sounded exactly like what he was, right? Like it was.
Yeah, well, they always did in the Beano,
like, press report. Richie, not Richie Reporter, but it was like something. Yeah. Anyway, that he had that as well.
Yeah, well, it was the thing. You wore that if you were a reporter in the 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
So anyway, he shows up to an airport where there's a plane coming in that's apparently going to have some important scientist guy on it that he's going to interview. The plane lands and a bunch of mad, very old avocado-faced guys jump out with axes and stuff and machine guns and start spraying everybody. And then this plague of contagious madmen sort of sweeps across the city for reasons we never quite fully understand where they're going or what they're planning to do, but they do a lot of sabotage, they do a lot of murder, and quite near the beginning they do descend upon the film studio, which is probably my favorite part of the movie, when there's a bunch of terrible spandex clad like flash dance girls and some dudes doing a choreographed dance routine and are not zombies, are madmen, kill the shit out of them.
Yeah, it's quite a thing to see what are basically zombies. No matter what Lenzi said.
Yes. Yep.
Wielding weapons, right? That's the thing. They have like machetes and guns, and so that's kind of fun. That's something that I don't think they did again. They don't. Do they use weapons in 28 Days Later? I think they just run at people and eat them, right? Fight them or attack.
And they run full tilt a lot of the time, except for when they don't. I was watching with Jen, and she was saying that there's actually a lot of them like stopping, and then also the people they're hunting will also stop, and they'll have the exchange of like.
And if we had onset sound, I'm wondering if it's someone saying, "Wait, my makeup's about to fall off."
That could totally be it.
Right.
So I love that scene. I also quite like the scene where Hugo Stiglitz, who is not really actually in the movie that much, funnily enough, because this movie is so episodic that there's long chunks where Stiglitz isn't even doing anything.
So it's a patchy performance, not a patchy beard.
Oh, that's what it is. Thank you, Clive.
Yes. You confused beard with performance.
Yeah. I do it all the time.
Yeah.
I do it all the time. It's why Brian Blessed's performances, to me, are some of the greatest performances of cinematic history.
Oh, it's just his beard.
It is just the beard, yeah. Fuck. So did you spot Eduardo Fajardo?
Yes, he was in there.
Who shows up
because
he plays a doctor who wears the surgical mask his entire performance. But he does give some Eduardo eyes. And he also, as all surgical doctors can wield an incredibly accurate scalpel. He whip into people.
I was like, way to go, because everyone else just goes, but he's like on it, right? He's like, fuck you, get out of my operation. I get the feeling because he's so grumpy up to that point as well. I get the feeling he hasn't even turned around to see it's effective as a zombie. It could just be a nurse or something. Get out!
I mean, I don't know what else there is to say about this.
I mean, quite a good, unusual Stelvio Ciprani score.
Yes.
Also in it is Maria Rosaria Omaggio, who we enjoyed in Rome, Armed to the Teeth, and she has a top scene. And I didn't watch the whole thing, but I started watching the commentary track for this. Some dude from Fangoria is clearly into her because he goes on and on like here we have the very lovely Maria Rosa. Isn't she really nice? And then she has a sex scene and this fellow here who's lucky enough to be massaging those beautiful, but like he's He clearly needs to go
Brilliant.
a glass of water and run around the garden for a bit before continuing. But yeah, he's really into her. I get it. She's a good-looking woman, but it's quite amusing to hear that on a comment, especially yeah, in more recent years, because I feel things have changed so quickly in the past 2 or 3 years. I'm not sure if that enthusiasm
Probably wouldn't get away
would
with
be
that now.
welcome on a commentary track now, right? Yeah, you can almost hear the friction of him stroking it as he's watching.
The quiet fap fap fap.
Yeah.
So also, like, what's Francisco Rabal doing in this?
Again,
And I'll give Mel Ferrer this because he's got quite a sizable role in this compared to his role in Eaten Alive, where he's really kind of just sitting with his pipe, wondering who the real cannibals are. In this, he's he's the guy who lets us know. He's the guy who knows that we need to aim for the brain. Yeah. But he has to deliver some truly risible fucking dialogue, and he never gives it a half-hearted, like he really just tries to sell the garbage that he has to say.
He is a pro.
He does better than, in fact, the ones in whoever's dubbing Stiglitz and his Stiglitz's wife, who have some truly awful dialogue near the end, also about they're back. It's so awkward and weird. It's nothing anyone would ever say. The only thing that makes sense about this film is actually the twist ending, which is awful. But you're like, oh no, I guess that does make sense because this couldn't be really happening. This is so awkward.
We're getting into some it's only a dream cyclical ending stuff, right?
Yes. It's funny. I don't mind. I don't hate the fact that there is this idea that maybe they're in some sort of purgatory.
Yeah, no, I'm oddly quite like this turn of events as well. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. Depending on whether you're Nick or me, I think this is a fun film. I didn't mind watching it again, but it is
probably split the difference. Go somewhere between my full-throated endorsement and
you
Clive's.
need someone to balance out Nick. So yeah, it's as patchy as Hugo Stiglitz's beard isn't.
Yes.
But I can see why it is a bit of a. Because as much as it doesn't deliver wall to wall, it does deliver more than a lot of other supposed kind of bonkers.
Yeah, it at least delivers wall to kitchen counter.
Yeah, which is more than some do. That's the thing. Yeah. I think some people, I don't know, they either turn their critical faculties off or they don't. And that's another possibility. Is they're just enjoying the experience of watching the film and they're not thinking about communicating an accurate review of the person of what the film might be like objectively. They're only kind of explaining how they feel in the moment, which is legit, because I think that's kind of what you're good at doing to a certain extent. Is I don't think you're wrong when you're saying that, but it's the trash masterpiece of your mind. Rather than it is existing objectively for everyone.
Yes,
but I do enjoy hearing about your experience with it, because I wish I was having your experience of it more, because that sounds like fun.
I always remember I read a review of this before I saw it. There was a series of paperback books. It was 2 actually, not a series. Video Trash and Treasures 1 and Video Trash and Treasures 2.
It's good. You're starting to reel yourself in.
Well, it's. I mean, I just remember that there's just 2 of them. One was pink and one was yellow.
Right.
And I don't know. Have you ever read them? They were.
I know of them, but I don't think I've ever had copies. Okay. I don't know anyone who had copies. So.
They were quite useful because they were sort of like, he had basically set himself up as like there isn't. You've got your Mick Martin and Marsha Porter or your Leonard Maltin, these massive things, but like they are not devoted to the trashier side of things. And he was like, it was like caveat emptor, whatever you say, that caveat emptor, like buyer beware. Like if you're going in and like if you're going to watch a Mad Max ripoff, which one should you get? If you're going to watch, the B horror films, which ones are good, which ones are bad? But I mean, he definitely had it in for the Italians. And so I remember a lot of negative reviews, and this was one where, you know, he had no time for this. And so when I did see it, I was like, oh no, he was wrong about this. This was not boring. I was always surprised when people would call things boring. Like, I was like, no, it's not boring.
It's a bit boring now and again.
Did you write Video Trash and Treasure Spy? All right.
It was the original Spine Grinder, yes.
Okay.
I had the format sorted out. What's on the menu next then, Nick?
I think is it more human flesh?
I believe so.
Okay. All right. So we're into
I could do with a salad at this point.
Yeah, probably. It's been a lot of gristly, fatty meat on the plate. So we're into Cannibal Ferox, also known as Make Them Die Slowly. Apparently a big hit on the 42nd Street grindhouse circuit.
Yeah.
Much bigger film in Japan and Germany and the States actually than it was in Japan. Than it was in Italy. A lot of these films that have outsized reputations at this time flopped in Italy, but were really big in other countries.
And of course, it became notorious in the UK because it ended up on the nasties list as well, right?
Yes, unsurprisingly, it is fairly nasty. So this is Lenzi's. Oh, I was going to say final. It's not final jungle film, which is very strange. Where we're going to end soon.
Well, it's the end of this cycle, right?
But it is his house cannibal film.
Yeah, I suppose there were the lesser ones. I mean, there was the thing that became. I mean, there's Cannibal, aka Cannibal Ferox 2, which was Massacre in Dinosaur Valley, and there's the Green Inferno, the original one, not that fucking Eli Roth thing.
Right.
There were a few. Actually, one of my favorite. Actually, I don't know if it was cannibally, but it was cannibally jungly.
Cut and Run.
Huh?
Are we talking Cut and Run?
No, not that one.
That's quite a bit later too.
Yeah, that's 85. That's good. But one of my particular favorites is Amazonia.
Okay, I don't know if I've seen it.
Also known as, is it White Slave or something it's called? Yeah, it's one of these. I mean, Sabrina Siani's not in it. She might as well have been. It's one of these. Yeah, lost jungle girl grows up to be the white.
Okay.
Of a tribe, and some people. It's a Mario Gariazzo film, I think. It's very good. I always liked Amazon. Me and Darren are big fans. We discovered it, and yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. I would recommend Amazon.
Okay, I will add that to my get to list for sure. So yeah, this is yeah. I mean, it's not good, really, is it? No,
and it is very much. I mean, he can complain as much as he likes about being ripped off, but this is such a big Cannibal Holocaust ripoff. Like
I guess with the exception of like there isn't that which is the genius of Cannibal Holocaust, the film within a film stuff.
No, that's it. Yeah, let me just say that properly. Imagine Cannibal Holocaust with everything good about it removed, and you have Cannibal Ferox. Pretty much.
Right. So we've got Giovanni Lombardo Radice, better known as John Morgan to fans of exploitation cinema, in one of his rare kind of leading roles, right? I mean, most of the time he tended to play sidekicks or village idiots or whatever, who, famously got their he came to a sticky end in most of the things he did, right?
Power drills to the head, that kind of thing. Yeah.
And so yeah, it is, although he doesn't actually show up. He doesn't show up for a while, because I mean the film begins with Lorraine Desselle playing this woman working on her PhD thesis to prove that cannibalism is just a myth of the exploiting first world.
It's an invention of racist colonialism.
Right. So she's going to prove this, and she's been following up leads and going to places and proving that these stories are not true. So she's heard a story. Where are they anyway? Which jungle are they? They're in the Amazon, right?
Yes, yeah. It was shot in Colombia.
Okay, so she's headed down to the Amazon with her brother,
Yeah.
who is a boring kind of muscular dude with a red neckerchief,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
there's sort
And
of
then, of course, if
bloody.
you're going on a serious expedition to write your thesis, you take along your ditzy friend who knows fuck all about anything.
Yeah,
For a
slutty,
cover, right?
and just easily annoyed by everything. You know, she's kind of
You
upset.
wonder why they brought her along, right?
Mhm.
Apart from someone extra to eat and have their breasts hung up from, pretty much.
Yes, so this actually, it's funny because like when Lenzi did his remake of what's the fucking thing with Richard Harris?
Horse.
The Man Called Horse. Yeah. The one thing he didn't do was the hooks through the nipples,
Yes.
thing. So
they did the rotating shooting gallery thing.
with this thing.
Yeah.
So this was his chance to like, oh, you know what, that felt unfinished. It's I need to do that. So so anyway, they get into trouble quite quickly.
The Jeep breaks down.
Their Jeep gets broken down. They go out into the jungle.
Before that, I was impressed they got it on that little boat. When he's driving it on the boat, I'm like, oh.
Now,
but
for me,
it's on there, yeah.
For me, that was less that boat looked worryingly like the ferry that me and Jen used to take across Shoal Lake.
Okay.
In the era.
Hold up.
Yeah. I was like, nah, it'll be fine.
Where of course you did used to live with a real cannibal tribe, of course.
No, Clive, no, I did not.
Oh, okay, sorry. I got confused there.
Yeah, no, that never happened. Anyway, so yeah, they
he's missing fingers, they're prosthetics.
So they so they go out into the jungle, they find some locals who have been murdered. The one's impaled on a gigantic spiky ball that's swung down and hit them, and the other guy's had his neck slashed. At which point Giovanni Lombardo Radice, aka John Morgan, shows up.
Not with Giovanni Ribisi as we sorted out last time, or somewhere.
Which is I off camera, but yes, I often got those two guys mixed up.
So it's on, but it might be another show.
Oh, yeah, that's possible. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So then he and then he has a friend, right, called, I don't know what his name is, John, something like that. There's two of them.
Yeah.
He seems to be injured. And it turns out that John Morgan is a real piece of shit. He plays Mike Logan, right?
Right.
He's a real scumbag.
Yeah. Coke head guy, kind of ruthlessly shooting and raping natives, and on the lookout for some
emeralds, I think.
Emeralds or some shit. Yeah. And of course, eventually the cannibals have enough. And people get hung up by their breasts, dick chopped off, top of the head cut off, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Actually, he restages the monkey scene from Man from Deep River, but now it's with Giovanni. Yes.
Meanwhile, Robert Kerman runs around in New York for
doing nothing connected to the story whatsoever.
And Jake Teagues in this one again as well. So another, I guess. So as far as I can tell, this one rests on the notoriety of the gore, and I get that to a certain extent. What I don't get is now, like all these years later, right, to the point we've had so much gore, to the point where the stuff in here looks quaint, really.
Right.
I don't understand why this still has a cult following of people who love it, because apart from the shock value, which I see might have been a thing when it was new, this is just a shit cannibal holocaust. Like, is there anything of value in this film other than as a museum piece where like someone would take you around with a pipe and like, well, back in, this was the Gore film in the 1980s, and I actually worked on this as a young buck. I was Giannato De Rossi's ball massager or something. You know, like, where do you start? Is there anything about this that you actually think is enjoyable or fun or not just boring, or like, how do you get on with? Because obviously I don't like Calvor. In case I was too sudden.
Yes.
And I've never liked it. So how about you? My guess is you probably like it a bit more than me, just because I don't think it's possible to like it any less.
Yes, yeah, probably a touch. But
Right.
But that said, I think that my enjoyment of this film is probably more my enjoyment of the DVD commentary for this film.
Again, which is something. Sorry, again, not to piss on it,
but
you massively oversold to me.
I should probably.
You remembered it.
I
remembered it wrong.
I should probably stop doing that, but I think I won't. I think I will continue to do that for as long as
annoy me. No, because the thing is, this is how Nick explained it to me. Right? Nick explained the Cannibal FEROX commentary to me as, obviously he'd misremembered it and confused.
Yes, yeah, it is 20-something years.
Yeah, and basically what he said, oh, it's brilliant, because what it does is Lenzi says, oh, this film is a masterpiece. I did this, and I'm suddenly French, not Italian, but it doesn't matter. It's a cod European accent anyway. And then John Morgan comes on and goes, that's shit, that's shit, that's shit, right? But that's not quite right. I mean, John Morgan saying that everything's crap is true. Umberto Lenzi is quite restrained. I don't think there's one point in the film where he claims that anything's really good in it. Like, he just kind of talks about the film and he doesn't say anything's fantastic, I don't think, as far as I could.
I think near the end he starts getting pretty high in his own farts.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, but I quite enjoyed listening to it. But it wasn't quite the
right. And you know, I think part of the reason why that may be the case is I feel like when I first saw it, it was appended to the end of a VHS tape that was sent to me by a friend of mine, and either he or there was a guy called Tito who worked for I think in Alternative Tentacles, or at least related to them in some way, and he had sent up, and he had actually cut together the best bits of the commentary track, and so some of my memories of how it lines up and how what they're saying may actually be in his work and not the actual full commentary. I feel like it was like 30 minutes of the film that he had like cut together, and that's probably what I think is genius, is whatever he did.
Is Reader's Digest still a thing?
I don't know. Why?
Well, that seems to me that's what Reader's Digest was.
Reader's Digest was, yes, you're right.
Yeah. Is a way to get through all the new books and like over at cocktail parties without actually reading the books.
Right, doing the work. Yes.
Yeah. I wonder if it's still going. Actually, I have no idea.
But yeah, no, you're not gonna get any pushback from me on this. Cannibal FEROX is shit.
It is, yeah, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear you say it.
It's definitely not Lenzi anywhere near his best. And if
I'd like to encourage more people to come out of the closet, and like Spartacus, right? Cannibal FEROX is shit. Cannibal FEROX is shit. I think we need more people standing up and saying that Cannibal FEROX is shit, and saying Cannibal FEROX is shit. Watch Eaten Alive instead, because it's much better.
Yeah. The Emperor has no clothes, I guess, or no cock.
Not anymore.
That's the one thing that made me laugh. And it may be in the commentary, but then when I was reading the book again, or did read the book, like apparently, whatever that prosthetic cock that they glued on top of John Morgan's cock, when it was torn off, like it was stuck rather too well, and it caused him. He lost a certain amount of dick skin as a result. It was not best pleased.
Hey, we forgot actually. I forgot we were supposed to be referring to the book. Were there any juicy nuggets about SCUSI Le Normal?
No, there wasn't.
Is that a fairly scant chapter? Is it?
It is, yes.
Does he have anything to say about it?
Well, one wonders if you know, to what degree, if he even had access to our YouTube translation, you know, because it's sometimes the plot details on those they're not really there. So let me just take a quick look again, though.
Could you have not got? I mean, if you're doing if you're focusing on an entire book of Lenzi, could you not get an Italian friend to sit beside you and?
Well, I mean, it's
what's
possible he might.
happening?
I mean, he just. I mean, it's the place that talks about how this book was, or sorry, the film was related to, which I wouldn't have remembered, but that La Cage aux Folles, or whatever the hell it is, La Cage, right? Yeah, I don't know, but there's no background stuff really.
Okay.
Oh, apparently Lenzi's in the film.
Yeah.
He cameos
yes.
as a TV announcer, which I didn't pay
Well,
attention to.
he is in Nightmare City as well. We forgot to mention he appears as a reporter, right?
Right, which I tend to just miss him, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't even remember what he looks like, to be honest with you. Even though I've seen his picture a lot recently, but he doesn't look like what I expect him to look like. I remember that the first time I saw his picture, I thought, oh,
yeah,
I didn't expect him to look like that.
He looks kind of avuncular, like kind of slightly disheveled professor, something like that.
No, because that's what I thought he would look like. But then I saw pictures of him when he was younger, and he doesn't look.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yes.
Just to put into perspective how shit Cannibal FEROX is, better than Cannibal FEROX, although it is a small margin, is PIERINO la PESTE alla RISCOSSA. I don't know if I'm saying that right. That's
a strong statement. But maybe.
If someone said to me, "Would you rather watch PIERINO la PESTE again or Cannibal FEROX?"
Well, okay. It is only 80 minutes long, so right away you're making out with probably 20 minutes that you don't have to watch. So yes.
Right. Plus, it's a chance for me to try and get my head around it. And again, we're talking no subs for this one. So once again, it could actually turn out to be the Citizen Kane of sex comedies with subtitles, but somehow I
think not.
And this one stars Giorgio Ariani, who's so. At first, before I dived into this, I assumed it was of a series. I thought that there'd be a bunch of Pierino La Peste films.
Yeah. But
apparently it's not, right? It's this is the only one, right? This is now it could be that all of other Giorgio Ariani's films are basically Pierino La Peste films by another title.
No. Well, so here's the thing.
Okay.
So here's Pierino Contro Tutti, so that would be Pierino against all, Pierino La Peste alla Croce. So there was an official yes, but this is not an official entry, and that is not the actor who appears.
Right. I was wondering if that might
film.
Be the case. It's not even an original legit Pierino La Peste. It's a Pierino La Peste rip-off.
That's exactly what it is. Starring a lookalike.
Paul L. Smith as Bud Spencer.
It's exactly what this is.
Interesting. Okay.
So the original film was Pierino Contro Tutti, 1981, in which rotund comic actor Alvaro Vitali plays youthful practical jokester named Pierno. The film was a smash hit with the Italian public. He had been in a bunch of Fellini films. He's in the Gallery of Grotesque and Satyricon, this actor. Anyway, so what's also interesting is, so there was a couple of those starring this other guy. This comes out as a piggybacking ripoff, but was originally intended to star a woman. It was supposed to be called Pierina.
That was their extra wrinkle, was it?
That was the thing, yes. Right. So, and apparently at the last minute, the actress who was signed up, because this apparently was in, it said, Lenzi is currently shooting Pierina La Peste, starring Daniela Goggi. And then at the last minute, she passed on the project and pulled out. And they had to very rapidly cobble together like another script and bring in a lookalike. And they just went, oh, fuck it, we'll just make it an exact copy. We'll use a guy who looks kind of like the guy who plays the part. Right. And that's what we're left with. So this film was like completely like just thrown together at the last minute and shot very quickly, apparently.
So is this Pierino similar to what the original Pierino is?
Yes, it's
Okay.
the same exact shtick.
Same
It's
shtick,
just done
okay.
by a different.
Okay. So in
Yeah,
this
like you said,
version,
it's Paul L. Smith doing
right.
Bud Spencer.
So in this version, at least, he's a fat guy with a funny pompadour haircut and a Mickey Mouse jumper.
Yep.
Who's fond of practical jokes. A lot of
important that he's a middle-aged man maybe not middle-aged, but a 30s man playing a 13-year-old boy.
Is that right? Because I was trying to figure out either he's been kept back a long time. Because there's another guy in his class as well who's clearly a grown-up.
Yes, there's the two of them, yeah.
So is that part of the joke? Is it that
I think that is part of the joke. I mean, it is very, as I said, in some ways it's very astute because it is completely an Adam Sandler film made 20 years before Adam Sandler started doing his.
Yes.
But it is very much The Waterboy or Billy Madison or any of those man-child moron, things.
Right. Absolutely, yeah. What I was trying to figure out, so there's no plot. It's basically a bunch of practical jokes and lots of fart and toilet jokes. And but what I was trying to figure out is, you mentioned this earlier apropos something else, but what's the audience for this? So when he turns up and he's in the school room and there's lots of childish fart and toilet, I thought, oh, okay, so this is aimed at
Italian Beano readers.
Yeah, or Ernest or something like that. Like it's a grown-up, but the Ernest films are aimed at children, right?
Yeah.
But then there's a whole lot of upskirt peeping and shit like that, and basically Pierino La Sex Pest.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, this is clearly not aimed at children. So all the other shit is aimed at retarded grown-ups. Or like, who the fuck is this film for?
I honestly I have the same questions about this as I have about Daughter of the Jungle, wherever it is. Yeah. Who is that? But possibly nobody, because
subnormal.
Yes, indeed. I mean, I think this is one of these things that just it disappeared off the face of the earth. There's a reason why this doesn't have an English dub.
But this would be, I'm more interested in this than almost anything, just because I suspect it is fucking awful in any language, right? I mean, I'm fairly confident I would put money on that. But it's still, I mean, some of it I got. I totally got what the joke was. It's just not funny. But then other bits, I'm like, what's the joke there? Like, I couldn't quite figure out. There's obviously there's one bit which
a lot of it's
no doubt is massively racist, if we could understand it.
Oh, yes.
He befriends, like, I think they're Japanese, are they?
A Chinese husband with his Japanese wife.
Well, I think that's how the YouTube translated it, but I think they're just Japanese, I think.
Okay.
Because when they do say their names, they're always Japanese sounding names, right? And I suppose the gag is the names in Italian sound rude or something like that, right?
Right.
So he says, I'm Fujisawa-san or something, and whatever way it's translated, he's like, yes, I also enjoy shitting my pants, or something like that, right? Yeah. No doubt hilarious.
Hilarious, yeah. Because he also said, there's something like where he says, like, have you eaten too much saffron? Or are you just Asian or whatever? Like, and I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that works.
Classy.
Yeah.
Classy.
Makes me laugh. So that I vaguely get. But then, on the other hand, I'm not quite sure why he pisses on that poor man, the shopkeeper.
Yeah, who then does like a...
Yeah, rather than get angry. And then later on he has a go at him as well. And there's like...
I mean, to be honest, if you want a visual approximation of the experience of watching this film, it is pretty much...
Yeah. And then there's a whole bit like when he puts glue on the teacher's chair, I get that.
Yeah.
But then also there's a whole bunch of word plays where that extends the gag.
Yes.
There's...
occasionally I think that, I mean, I couldn't figure out, like, it was that the actual line, because we're dealing with this like double translation, right? Like, it's the AI is hearing the language spoken, translating that language into Italian, and then simultaneously translating that into English. But there was a line in it that made me laugh out loud because it was so weird. It was like he called somebody like you you son of a party dancer from Kyoto. I was like, you son of a party dancer from Kyoto. I was like,
that's below the belt.
That's a weird specific.
And then there's other bits that look like they might be slightly amusing. For instance, I quite like the scene where a man comes in. So his father runs a pharmacy. There's a man who comes in who neighs like a horse.
Yes.
Like his thing. That looked like it might have been.
And gives him a license to shit in the street.
Yeah.
That's the end of that gag. Like that, he's like, that's what.
There's another one. There's really pathetic. It was a woman who just has hiccups, and he just has her do breathing exercises, and then instead she just farts a lot.
Farts. Yeah.
And then there's some trying to pick up the pharmacist assistant skirt thing. I don't know what was the end of that gag when he had the red light on his face, like woo.
I don't know.
Something end to that gag. Jenny Tamburi, who was a sex symbol of the day, she plays the female teacher, the attractive
sexy teacher,
which I thought they were going to do a bit more with, but she doesn't do anything super sexy. They do see her changing at some point because there's a lot of peeking at girls changing in
using mirrors and stuff. They cut proto Porky's stuff. Right.
Well, proto Porky's is lemon popsicle, right?
Right.
Yeah. But and there's some funny music, which is almost a Pink Panther theme.
Yep, a lot of How many notes do you have to change before it's legally okay, legally not?
Didn't or something.
Totally.
Not quite.
I was laughing. That was wow.
So I don't know. I mean, if you have,
I love that you liked this more, or at least equally with Cannibal FEROX.
More. Oh no, absolutely. I don't know what to say. If you have a retard, you need to keep amused for an hour and a half. I mean, this might be.
Well, no, because this movie is only 80 minutes long. So
damn! So you need an extra 10 minutes short. Yes,
the film for that.
Right.
Anyway,
giving bad consumer advice again.
Yeah, I'm not buying your video, Trash and Treasures 3.
It's
all
10
right.
minutes short. Look, my mong's been bored for the past 10 minutes, and it's Clive's fault.
All right then. Are we done with Pierino?
I think we probably should.
I think we should move on.
Yeah, but I might watch it again one day. I mean, if someone makes subs available,
proper subs, okay.
I wouldn't mind.
I don't think that's high on anybody's priority list, but you never know.
And I might take a look at the original Pierino films just out of curiosity. I wonder if anyone's ever
what that was about.
Subtitled those, probably not, right? But
maybe just because they have the I'll check in the usual.
Have a look. Right then. So
yes. What the fuck is this thing?
The Daughter of the Jungle.
Yeah, Incontro nell'ultimo paradiso.
Yes.
Yeah.
From 1982.
So we got Sal Borghese back as the only actor I recognize as having ever been in anything else, right?
Apart from Sabrina Siani.
Right. Which I don't know if I've seen. Actually, may not have seen her.
She's in Conquest.
Oh shit! Well, there you go. So I have seen her, but I just
she's in a bunch of barbarian films as well.
Okay.
And
that makes sense. She looks a bit savage in her way.
Right. Apologies there, Sabrina, if you're watching. Yes. So what happens in this one then, Nick? Because there's a couple of douchebags from New York, right?
Oh my God, these guys are such cocks.
Brunetto Miraco as the permed Monty Python lookalike.
They beg the question of Scusi, è normale?
And Rodolfo Bigotti, I think, is the other non-Monty Hellman lookalike. Well, that's how I separated the two.
Right. You've got Ringo and Butch. I think Butch is the more Italian, like stereotypically Italian-looking one with the black hair, right?
No,
it's the opposite.
They're dyed-in-the-wool New Yorkers.
Oh yes, right.
Did you not get that?
Anyway, one's got curly kind of like what's his face from
It's Monty Hellman or Art Garfunkel, right?
oh yeah, that Garfunkel's Where I Go. Yes, yeah. So they play two just asshats who show up in some jungly type of country.
It was an asshat.
and they just act like tool bags, and it's fine. It's quite surprising how long the film goes on before we even introduce our Tarzana character, right? But yes, there's a little bit. Oh, also, it's worth mentioning who wrote this piece of shit.
Yes, it's our mate John Morgan.
It is indeed Giovanni Lombardo.
Revenge for Ferox.
It seems like
I'll show him the fucking Lenzi cut off of my cock.
Yeah.
Yes, him and Marina Garoni wrote the flushing it like John Morgan's there having a go at Calvin Ferox, basically saying how so much below his talent it is. And then he writes this. So God writes this. It's like, there goes flush down the toilet goes that
argument.
About that,
yeah. Although the film does feel like it's not, because it's not good, but it is like the My Name is Trinity or My Name is Nobody or whatever of the cannibal genre. Like we've done this to here, and now we're going to make the comedy version of. It
is a weird hybrid. It's got to be said. So the other thing as well is, where is it set? I know it's shot in the Dominican Republic. Mm-hmm. Where the fuck is it actually supposed to be? I don't think they ever actually say.
I don't think they ever say.
Some foreign place which might have savages, right? Basically. Right. And there's a gag at the beginning where they go to like a village in said place, and the locals put away all their modern things and pretend to be,
get into their grass skirts and their spears and stuff like that. Yes.
Apart from the one guy who still has his Pope John Paul II picture on the wall of his head and is watching some kind of Western on his television, which made me laugh a little bit. As much as this film made me laugh at all. Yeah.
Although we'll get to the few parts that did make me laugh, all for all the wrong reasons. But
yes.
But yeah, so and they just act like entitled assholes, basically, these two guys who I assumed were coded as gay for the first 20 minutes of the film, until events proved me that wasn't the case. But maybe because I'd seen SCUSI so recently that
also there's a gag near the beginning which doesn't work at all, and I don't know if it's where it's like why don't you say you don't love your father or something like that, and there's a wah 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 accompanied. I don't get that at all. Nope. And I was thinking, there's no way that he's not supposed to be his dad. Art Garfunkel's not supposed to be his dad, and I don't think that is the case. But in which case, I don't get the joke.
No. I think that there's supposed to be two college students who are in the third world
New York,
somewhere.
from New York.
Two college students from New York who are in the developing world somewhere and just being assholes. And there's a whole endless stream of gags around this one guy's headphones and his Freud or whatever he calls his.
Oh no! This is the other one. This is the other one that made me laugh because it's such a great name. The band that he's listening to, which he keeps referring to as disco music, even though it doesn't sound like disco music to me, is called. Get this! Someone needs to start a band with this name immediately. Barney Freud and the Street Shovel.
Okay, that's what that is. Okay.
And yet, I want to be in a band called Barney Freud and the Street Shovel. That's a great name. The dubbers were obviously smoking some awesome weed that day.
Should we just jump ahead to talk about this? Because this film has one of the most absolutely we don't give a fuck dub jobs of any of the Italian films.
I can hear the bong water turning brown in the two background.
Our two heroes, our two protagonists, whatever the fuck they are, they both have they're both voiced by guys who regularly did Thomas Million. So that's weird for me. But yeah, when you get to the trio of villains, we've got the stuttering buffoon, we've got the guy who's doing Kermit the Frog.
The fat guy.
The fat guy who's doing hi-ho, Kermit the Frog here.
I found a jungle woman. Wait until Dupre finds out about this. And yeah, Sal Borghese as Dupre, right? The French restaurateur and jewel hunter, I guess.
Where the film constantly actively makes fun of his shit French accent, right? To the point at the end where they completely break the fourth wall.
Yeah,
right?
And he says, I hope the director's going to put me in the sequel. And someone else says, nah, your accent is too shit. Yeah, at this point, you have to scrape the dubbers off the roof of the studio, right? They're high as fucking kites at this point.
I've never heard a dub job where people gave as little a shit or were just
almost hear the door slamming. And, okay, but at the end, they're off to get munchies somewhere down, right?
Yeah.
But what does happen is they get lost in the jungle until they meet, the jungle queens, the scantily clad and occasionally topless Sabrina Sian, which is basically what she did. That was her career.
And her ass is entirely exposed the entire film.
Good stuff. In fact, a line is, "What a piece of ass!" when they first meet her, which is weird. It kind of goes romantic as well, because she ends up falling for Smoochy
our Garfunkel
with Garfunkel and ignores the other guy because he's a bit too for her, I think. So you would have thought a jungle woman would appreciate alpha male, right?
But no,
jungle. No, she's after sensitive. Someone who'd be.
You want a bridge. You want a bridge over that troubled water.
Oh, very well. Well done. Yes. T. Look how inordinately pleased you are with yourself there.
Well, I don't get many compliments from the Clive man, so I'll take them where I can. So it's jungle girl time, which is good. But then Borghese and Kermit and the other guy turn up and they're after some jewels. Borghese, who is wearing
monocle,
part of a Ray-Ban sunglass monocle thing, which is kind of poking out of his eye the whole film.
Yeah, he seems to be enjoying himself. I think
he's chewing the scenery like nobody's business.
I get the feeling Lenzi is like, "Hey, Sal, you've been there for me in the background of all those films. How would you fancy a holiday to Dominion Republic, and you get to look at Sabrina Siani's ass?"
That's the whole time.
Yeah.
And just if you want to chew the scenery, just chew it as hard as you can.
Do any accent you want, it's fine. So off they trot to Dominion Republic. To make again, who is this film aimed at?
Yeah, that's my question, because in like the comedy and stuff and the broadness of it all seems like it's almost aimed at like teenage boys, and then
there's a smoking chimpanzee.
Yes, we have, which again we haven't seen in a while, but
no,
we're
I don't think
they
encourage. I don't think they encourage simians to smoke anymore in the movies.
No. But we did see this before in one of his earlier jungle films.
Yes. I'm surprised there's not fucking footage from that, to be honest.
At
least they bothered to shoot some new.
They found a new monkey, which was nice of them. And then
it's definitely an odd mix, but crucially, you don't really need to worry because it's shit, which is the main thing you need to know. It is fucking awful, right? Like, Pierino is even better than this? It might be,
might be. But what's weird about this is, like, other than Sal Borghese, who is hardly like a marquee, figure of the earlier Lenzi films, there's nobody.
Hey, you never guess what's showing tonight. It's a new Sal Borghese movie.
Yeah. We've got I don't recognize either of these two leads from anything. And I've seen shit tons of Italian exploitation films. So where do they even find those two geeks? I don't know, just fascinating.
Neither of us has anything more to say.
No. Except to say that apparently even the great Giovanni Lombardo Radice, aka John Morgan, said this film is shit.
Right.
And he wrote it. So there you go.
Is there anything about this in the book?
When it was released in Italy on the 14th of August, 1982, The Daughter of the Jungle failed to generate any interest.
Well, there's a surprise.
That's
I mean,
about-
it's only got Sabrina Siani going for it, really, and she's in a whole bunch of other films doing the same kind of thing. So
right, she's in well, I mean, I assume she was probably casting this based on the Jess Franco White Cannibal Queen, right?
yeah, she's done that shtick a few times. She's in Cannibal Terror as well, and yeah.
Mhm. And as I said, this does seem to be like the broad comedy end of the genre cycle, you know, for the cannibal film, to my mind, because it is touching on some of those little things, like the whole, like, who's, you know, asshole North America, whatever, you know, Americans going down to these places and, you know, being disrespectful, and like it's got those little tropes and stuff.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's interesting to try and place it in the context of its time, but very difficult for us to do, right? Because we're not feeling the air in the room, right? But yeah, you might be right. It might be like, oh, this has still got a little bit of mileage left in it, this trend, but yeah, shall we inject it? Because that's what happens with all these trends towards the end.
Yeah,
the comedy.
It's always the comedy version, yeah, and then that's the death of the genre, basically, right?
Right.
Let's make fun of the
And
tropes.
there might be like one gem, right? Which this isn't. I'm wondering if there is a one that came even before this. Is there like a one truly hilarious last gasp comedy take on, in the same way that, like, you know, the first My Name Is Nobody, for example, is actually
It's not bad.
Yeah. There we go. If you know, keep it to yourself.
Yes, yeah. We don't need to see it.
But if you've got a subtitled Pierino, I'm here for it. I'll definitely down for some more Pierino action. So there we go. Lenzi episode Iguana's Bumhole episode 6.
We're starting to see the light at the end of the bumhole.
Yes.
It's just there, I think.
The dilating ring piece, which will allow us to breathe on Lenzi air again. How I look forward to that day.
Yes. The leather Cheerio expands ever so slightly, and we see some light.
I'm off now. I'm either gonna put on Mr. Disco Boogie Boogie Dance or Barney Freud and the Street Shovel. I'm not quite sure if I'm in the mood for. Hell, why not both?
I would, yeah. Why limit yourself?
Right. So until next time, where we'll be fucking plowing through some more shit.
This last two episodes of this are going to be tough going off screen. You don't just be glad that we've done the work for you, gentle viewers.
This is true.
This is selfless work on behalf of the human race. Especially when we get to these last 60. There's still 16 of them left, Clive.
Yep. Anyway, it'll be over one day, Nick.
By Christmas. We're over by Christmas, I believe. That's what I've been told.
Let's go then. Let's go. Okay. And let's boogie boogie dance our way out.
Disco boogie boogie dance.
Mr. Disco boogie boogie dance. Mr.
Disco boogie boogie dance.
The triumphant Machiste and Satana prepare their offense for the criminal syndicate in the jungle hell of an iguana's bumhole.